It's no surprise that there are many instances of explosions and train derailments. For example, the Lac-Mégantic rail disaster in Quebec, which may be the most deadly of them all. But there are some others that are well known, like the Casselton train derailment that happened in North Dakota, which is the story we will be talking about. On December 30th, 2013, BNSF crude oil train named U-FYNHAY4-05T was heading east through Casselton, North Dakota. The train consisted of three BNSF locomotives, which were C-44-9W, 4934 leading, ES-44AC, 5958 trailing, and a distributed power unit at the back, which was ES-44C4, 6684. The train was pulling 104 loaded .111 tank cars in tow and two buffer cars loaded with sand at both ends of the train. The train was operated by two men, which were engineer Brian Thompson and conductor Peter Wright. Meanwhile, a BNSF Green train named G-RYLRGT9-268 was heading west on the Cato subdivision and was to meet the oil train in Casselton. The train consisted of 112 covered hoppers and three engines that were all ES-44 C4s, which were 6990 leading, 6833 trailing, and 6745 at the back. The crew this time had four men, which were engineer Thomas Cooks, conductor Bruce Anderson, Paul Douglas, where he would conduct the check ride with the crew, and a student engineer, Jeff Anderson, who was related to Bruce Anderson. As 6990 West would be meeting with 4934 East, a signal maintainer vehicle driven by Todd Dutchick, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, was sitting in his truck at a switch heater near milepost 28.5 when the trains would meet. Everything was going okay with the grain train going 35 miles per hour, but that would change as Todd spotted small bits from the heater were being shredded from the train, which was possibly something coming from the train. Todd would soon contact the crew on radio channel 8 about what was happening.
Signal maintainer, train going through Casselton.
That's over.
Did anything go wrong with your train there? I just seen a bunch of stuff fly off the switch heater.
Train in emergency, 4934, watch yourself.
The green train had derailed at 2:10 p.m. Central Standard Time and was going into emergency braking from the air pressure being dropped from the unattached air lines in some of the derailed hoppers.
Emergency, main track 1, go.
13 of the hoppers derailed, but only one would topple over on the track 2, which was the 45th car. That meant the oil train was heading straight towards the derailed hopper, and they couldn't stop even though dispatch and the other crew tried to warn them, which meant there was no way to stop in time.
You're all stopped at Cass Center here.
699, you're seeing your emergency there on main 1. You're all stopped now, is that correct? That's correct. And 4934, stopping there. Yeah, main 1 emergency side of it. 2934, you guys stopping there. We are everywhere.
There's a fire.
We're a key train. Get out.
BNSF Minot dispatcher.
It's an emergency. We are everywhere. A key train. We are on fire. Which train is on fire there? Is that the 6990? 4934. 4934. We are derailed. We are all over. We gotta go. Grab your portable. Okay, 4934 is on fire. Gotta go. All right, well, call me as soon as you can.
The oil train hits the derailed hopper at 2:11 p.m., causing the two engines, a hopper, and 20 tank cars to derail off the track, causing the engines and tankers to rupture and start a fire almost immediately.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
It's about a quarter-mile west of Casselton on the railroad tracks. We got a train that derailed and there's a fire.
Ron Davis, give me a available.
Okay, a quarter-mile west of where?
That's for Casselton. Anybody needs
Okay.
to go back towards, let me know. I'm coming that way.
Casselton
Okay,
on
so-
Casselton.
Okay, I just got to look on the map here to get a better location.
Right along Highway 10 towards right by the ethanol plant.
By the ethanol plant on 10?
Just east of the west, between Casselton and the ethanol plant on the railroad track.
Okay, and you said a quarter-mile west of Casselton?
Yep.
So roughly 154th. Okay. And you said that it's on fire?
Yeah, there's fire, and there's engineers trying to get out of the train right now. So I'm heading that way.
And do you know how? Okay, do you know how many cars derailed?
I can't tell you at this time. All I know, there's a lot of smoke.
Okay, do you know what was in the cars?
It looks like grain cars.
Anybody down 911 yet?
The crew of 6990 would help 4934 East with the assistant chief of the Casselton Fire Department. They started an operation where they would pull many of the tankers that were still on the rails as far away from the fire. Cooks would climb into 6684 and would pull them away, and for the rest of the crew, they would uncouple a good chunk of the tankers in the crash site. It was a success, with many of the tankers being pulled away about a quarter mile away. After that, Jeff Anderson would wear fire-resistant equipment and walk to the wreckage with the assistant and would call back to Cooks to pull another good chunk of tankers away. At around 7:11 p.m., the town of Casselton would be evacuated because of the wind blowing the fire towards the east. Around 1,500 were evacuated. The next day at 3 p.m., everyone returned back to Casselton and the fire was under control. And it was stated that an estimated amount of crude oil released was 476 gallons. Now, there lies the question, how could such a derailment like this happen? People would start investigating the crash site, and what they found was that an axle from hopper car 486653 was broken. There was some strange parts on the axle that may have been from the accident, but it was sent to the NTSB materials lab. The investigators would find a large hole in the axle, which has been there ever since. The axles on 486653 and the other hoppers behind it were replaced in 2010, but they would find out that in the middle of many of the axles were empty spaces that ranged from many different sizes. The NTSB concluded that the cause was BNSF 486653's front axle giving way from its empty space in the middle. After the accident, BNSF would place more safety restrictions on their oil trains. Many other railroad companies also began replacing their .111 tank cars for new .117s after this accident. And surprisingly, not a single person died in this accident, and that includes Thompson and Rifle when they escaped their train before the massive fire. But that couldn't be said for the engines, as 4934 and 5958 were completely engulfed in the wreckage by the flames, and both were scrapped. The other trains would make it out safely, which includes the 3 grain train engines and 6684. They were all put back into service and still operate on BNSF. Jeff Anderson would also get praised for helping uncouple the tank cars, and that he risked his life and possibly saved many lives. Sadly, he passed away back in 2020 from an undiagnosed heart condition. As for the other crew members, there isn't much about them, except that Brian Thompson had a severe case of PTSD after the collision, and he even filed a lawsuit against BNSF for the accident. He later quit working on BNSF overall, and the verdict on the trial is unknown. It's been 11 years since this derailment and will likely stay stuck to many people to this day. There are many other explosions from derailments like this. Those are stories for another day.